AAA, mature-rated, gore-filled first-person shooter on Nintendo Switch. It sounds like an odd combo, but now that Doom is officially here for the Nintendo Hybrid, how does it hold up, and is it worth your time and money? What's up, everybody? It's Zach from Switchforce. I've got Gabe here, and that is what we're talking about today. Bethesda brings their brutal shooter to Switch. How does the port hold up?
It holds up surprisingly well, and it does a couple of things for me and for others. It gives a clear indication of how graphically intensive games that are maybe just a little bit off kilter and not expected for the Switch, now we see how they could perform. Now I have zero doubt that Wolfenstein 2 can run on here, and I see exactly how it would, hypothetically work. Bringing in other games, of course. Assassin's Creed, I feel like could maybe work on Switch, maybe not Origins, just because it's so vast and huge. But again, Doom gives a very good indication of how big AAA games can exist on the platform, and that is the main takeaway, and I'm happy with it.
Absolutely. I think it's cool to see that it plays, runs, and looks good enough. I think that's kind of what we wanted out of this. Obviously, we know the Switch does not have the technical prowess to put out something that is going to rival, current PS4 games or current Xbox One games when they're, at the top of the heap. But you played a ton of this port. I've played a chunk of it as well, and I think you're right. I think it does run good enough. Now, what was your experience in sort of the difference between handheld and docked?
I prefer docked. You're going to have a little bit more detail when you're playing handheld. The resolution's the same. You're playing in 720p in both, but the screen being a little bit bigger, it's just my preferred way of playing. The Joy-Con are a little small, and the aiming on this game is very weird. And you pointed it out when you first played the game months and months ago, how instead of aiming with the right stick, you find yourself just kind of maneuvering yourself with the left stick to position yourself instead of aiming the gun. That's more of a Joy-Con problem for me, at least. When I'm playing with the Pro Controller, it's a little bit easier to aim with the right stick, but that 30 FPS is the hindrance there. And just to get those small details out of the way, it's not 1080p, not 60 FPS. We can easily move past that. The game still feels very quick. Like the frenetic, action-based gameplay is still there. It's still very Twitch-based. So, handheld runs well, though. I don't want to discourage people that maybe wanted to play the game handheld exclusively, or, they wanted to take it on the go. It still plays very well. Again, graphical hits, that goes without saying. But the experience is there. I had one little issue in handheld where the audio completely dropped off 100%. You couldn't hear a single thing. But I just reloaded the checkpoint and then it was fine. Didn't experience it again. I have seen people talk about that little audio issues, but I'm assuming there's going to be a patch.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. And I think, the big thing here, and regardless of how Doom ends up selling, was sort of like you mentioned, a test run for how could a game like this prepare and play on Switch. And I think it served Bethesda as their opportunity to experiment to then get Wolfenstein 2. And we don't know when the new Colossus is coming to Switch. It's supposed to be early next year, but that will be another indication of how can the Switch handle this. Do you think, from what you've seen, from what you've played, how Doom runs, would you, given the choice, want to play a day-and-date AAA shooter on Switch, or is it more of a novelty to have that portable option?
And this is a little bit of a cop-out answer, but it's going to depend entirely on the person making the choice. For me, I'm not. If it's day and date Wolfenstein, if it's on PC and on Switch, I'm playing it on PC just because my PC can run 4K, and I can have a better experience with the game in that manner. Excuse me. But for someone that travels a lot, I mean, I'm traveling here soon, but traveling is not something I do super often. You, for instance, you travel way more than I do. Maybe that's a better question suited for you. Is being able to take this game with you enough to make you not get the superior version?
Yeah, and it's tricky because it almost is a case-by-case basis. In this instance, I didn't feel like the frame rate and the resolution was enough of a hit to ruin it, right? It's obviously notable, but not enough to make me upset or to make me, scoff at this version. I think given, say I didn't, have to dock it and record it, say I didn't have to, this or that, I think I would love to have it on Switch because of that portable factor, because I can take it with me and it does do good enough, right? And that's kind of what we've been looking for out of some of these ports. I think NBA 2K18, good enough, not phenomenal, but good enough. Doom now, good enough, and that's gonna again vary. It's kind of a very personal choice. Like, does that frame rate? Are you someone that's really affected by a lower frame rate, and you're gonna be like, hey, I can't cope. I cannot aim how I want to aim. I cannot move how I want to move. I mean, I think of all the options, Doom is sort of a fantastic test, right? Because that is as fast paced of a game as you're gonna get for console, and the fact that we're saying like it's pretty good, I think that's a win for Switch.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'd always rather play like the Mario Odysseys and the games that are, baked specifically for this console. But it's good to see, and it opens so many doors to allow for titles not only of graphical prowess, but of different genres, right? Of different demographics. A mature-rated bloody shooter, like, it's good to get that stuff on Switch because it opens the door for so much future development, not only of ports, but also of original titles. We could get an original shooter from Bethesda at some point, and that would probably be the ideal release in this sort of vein.
Yeah, of course. And just to go back to your question a little bit, the only reason I say that I would still play on PC is because the way I play Switch is exactly the way I play on PC. I have like a 3-monitor setup, my PC monitor's on top, the Switch monitor's on the left, so I'm playing at my desk regardless. So why not play on the better looking one if I'm sitting in the exact same place? Totally. Again, if I'm playing like on my TV or something, maybe I'll play on Switch dock. But I honestly don't play games on my TV a lot. I play on my monitors, and
right.
And of course the traveling aspect comes into it. Or maybe if you're in school. Playing the multiplayer could be fun while being on a hotspot or something. We'll talk about the multiplayer here in a little bit, but overall, though, I do want to say the game is very, very good. The Switch port doesn't take away anything from what the game is. It's currently at an 81 on Metacritic out of 16 critics, and this is for the Switch version exclusively. So critics do seem to be happy with it, and the sentiment, and you said it a couple of times here, good enough, and I think that's just what we're going to keep going back to. It's not detrimental to you having a good time with the game in any way. Once you adjust, if you've played Doom in the past, it's going to take some adjustment to go from 60 FPS to 30. Once you're past that, and once you settle in, and you lock in with the fact that, okay, this is how the environments look, then right. I think you're okay.
Yeah, I agree. Now, people have noted slowdown in some of the kill animations. Did you experience anything worse than that? Were boss fights choppy? How did that go for you?
For the most part, it's good. It's good. It does a respectable job of trying to maintain that 30 FPS. Occasionally, it did dip, but this is a game that throws a lot of enemies at you, and there's a lot of explosions and there's particle effects. There's a lot going on. The particle effects in this game, in particular, might not be super detailed, but they're still there. The right. Lighting, they're still like weird, like lighting things. You have like lights flashing, and I use like the word frenetic for this game just because that's a perfect description of what this game is. It's chaos, and it is going to cause some slowdown every once in a while. But honestly, it doesn't happen very often. The boss fights were fine. Those do happen in like more confined spaces, so I think they were good on that aspect.
Did you notice, like, when you get a bunch of enemies on screen, sort of when the music really kicks up and you have to eliminate a whole lot of hellish fiends, was there slowdown there, or did it manage to handle a bunch of bad guys on screen at once?
It handles them. Honestly,
Good.
it's just a couple of levels in particular that it keeps happening with. I've replayed the game in certain aspects, whether it be for the handheld video I made or whether it be just for the Let's Play where I talked about all of this in some detail. So I played certain areas over again, and I found that those areas are the ones that do get choppy. It's not the entire game. It's not okay, there's like X amount of enemies coming at you, it's choppy. It's hey, this area is choppy. And yes, the enemies have something to do with it, but so does everything else.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, and I think, it's interesting because you can look at this from sort of two perspectives. Like, okay, we have been talking the Switch as a a console that is right up there this year with the others because of its stellar lineup, because of its stellar like new way of play. And from that standpoint, okay, then you look and say, okay, Doom is good enough. I think if you kind of look at it from maybe more of a widespread view of like gaming as a whole over the last, say, decade, the fact that we're able to take this title on the go and have it run as well as it does and look as good as it does, like, that's something to get excited about. You know, the PlayStation Vita had promise of being able to be this remote play portable PS4. It never really lived up to that. If you go compare something like Resistance on Vita, or even the Killzone title, which was, you know, generally well received, Doom definitely outclasses those experiences. So from that standpoint, this is sort of the first time on a legit console that you can take something of this caliber on the go. I don't know that I want to give it brownie points for that, but I think, as we mentioned, for certain players, and just maybe for the gaming space as a whole, like, kudos to them for pulling this off. And I would hope that maybe this allows for Wolfenstein 2 to look better next year and run better next year.
For sure. There's a couple of things that I do want to touch on before we leave here. Overall, package-wise, you know, one of the best campaigns in the last X amount of years. It's a fantastic FPS campaign. It's lengthy. It's going to take you over 10 hours to beat. It also has the arcade mode. This does come with all the DLC that's been released for the game. So it does have that arcade mode that wasn't originally in the original release. Multiplayer, it's there. I've played against bots. I've played 2 matches against real people. There's no like crazy lag or anything like that. It has dedicated servers. So it works. It's just, you know, it's 30 FPS. and
right.
Again, I think once you get used to it, you're fine. But it's a little bit jarring at first. The multiplayer works exactly how you expect it to work. The unlocking system is still there. The customizing your avatar, I don't know what to call them, your avatar, I guess, your soldier. Everything is there exactly the way you expect it to be. It is like Doom 1-to-1, except for the downgraded visuals. So package-wise, still a very good package. I wish it was cheaper. That's the one thing. I wish this was $40 instead of $60, because the game isn't new. It's been out since 2016. Early 2016, I believe. So it's been out for a little while now. And that's the only bummer, but, you know, the Switch tech seems to be a real thing. And, we got to give props to Panic Button for making this port as good as it is and make it run as well as it does. That gives me confidence for Rocket League, since they worked on it as well.
Absolutely. And I do think, that's a good point. You know, these titles would be even more appealing if they came in at a $40 price point. It'd be like, hey, it's a port, it's portable, it may be something you've already played, but it's quality. And I think that, you know, gameplay-wise, this is a top-tier experience. And so the fact that it runs just as well, or well enough, rather, is what I would like to say there, makes it an interesting proposition. Now, at $60, you know, maybe if you already played it, maybe you wait for a price drop. But if you haven't played it and you're looking for something of the first-person shooter ilk on the Switch, I think this is a golden option for you. And it sounds like, from your experience, the full game, technically, it holds up. It works throughout the experience. There's no glaring issues or problems. And it seems like this is a good sign for the Switch going forward. So I think, in general, Doom initially, a lot of people throwing 9s at that. Would you feel comfortable giving a similar score to the Switch version? Does the portability outweigh sort of the technical shortcomings, or would you drop that down?
That's so tough. Well, you're asking the wrong person, because to me, the original Doom is not a 9. So, I mean, I don't know that I'm giving this one a 9. I land closer to the 8.5. The campaign is, and I know people like this, but it's a little long in my opinion. It's overly long. Again, that's just my opinion. I know people like playing campaigns for as much time as they possibly can. But if it were like a little bit shorter, there's still a whole lot to like here. The multiplayer is something that worries me. If you get this and you're really excited for the multiplayer, I don't know for how long there's an install base there. Just because even on consoles and on PC, multiplayer was not something that people really gravitated towards.
Right.
People still play it, but the numbers aren't there. So I don't understand how that translates to Switch successfully. But maybe it does. Who knows? But maybe take away a point. Like, to me, this is still like a solid 8 on Switch. Like, if it's like an 8.5, 9 for PC and other platforms, like, this is just maybe a point below it. It's still a very good game. I still recommend it. If you've never played Doom, I think playing it on Switch for the first time, you'll have a great time.
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic game, and I know we spent the majority of our time talking on how it translates to Switch, but again, like Gabe just mentioned and we've kind of hinted at, Doom is a really great game. So if you've never played it, like, this is one not to sleep on, and being able to bring it with you, especially for upcoming holiday travels or from some snow days, it could be a really cool option. So check it out if you'd like. We've got a whole bunch of gameplay footage up on the channel, both docked and handheld, so give a look at those. And I'm super curious to see, going forward, how these sell, how the multiplayer, even for something like Rocket League, like, how does the multiplayer hold up there? How does Doom multiplayer hold up? And eventually, what is Bethesda able to do with Wolfenstein 2 next year? And what are other third-party titles in year 2 of Switch going to look like? Will they be able to unlock a little bit more power, a little bit more optimization, or is this as good as it's going to get? And if it is as good as it's going to get, I think in general, we are pretty happy. So hopefully you guys are happy as well and enjoying this video. If you did, let us know in the comments below, and also let us know your take on Doom Switch. If you plan on picking up, we're curious to hear how you feel about this AAA frenetic, fast-paced, freaking gory shooter on your hybrid. Until next time, though, everybody, thanks so much for watching. A fantastic day. For myself and Gabe, Switch Force out.